Okay, today I'm going to do a pretty thorough walk around and review of this 2013 BMW F800GT. A couple of notes here. When I did this, I lost the audio didn't take, so I'm having to dub my voice over the walk around, so my hand gestures aren't going to match up with what I'm saying all the time. I apologize in advance for that. Also, I want to do a little shout out here to Seaver BMW of Orange, California. This is not just a little test ride I'm on. This is a loaner bike. I got this over the weekend. They're closed Sunday and Monday. I had it over those whole days to ride and evaluate. So really appreciate that. Thanks again, Seaver BMW of Orange, California. So let me break this down. I'm going to talk about what kind of bike this is. That's kind of important. It's an unusual kind of bike. I'm going to talk about the style, the engine, the braking, handling, suspension, the electronics, and I'm going to sum up. So this is going to cover a lot of stuff. This is aimed at people who are really looking at this bike, really interested and want to find out a little bit more about it. If you are, go to a dealer and ride one. BMW does loaners. So this bike, I would call this bike, gets called a lot of things. I would call this bike a light sport tourer. Okay, so let's break that down. Light. Well, it's lighter than something like a Concourse or BMW's own RT or a Harley touring bike. For a tourer, it is a very light bike. And sport, this one is definitely, it doesn't take much to figure out by looking at it. It's a sport bike turned into a tourer. Is it a sport bike? No, it's a sport bike combined with other features. A tourer bike, actually, the harder part about this when I looked at it is going, why is this a tourer? It's a touring bike because you sit in an upright, comfortable position, unlike how you would on a sport bike. It has a big windshield on it, compared again to a sport bike, and it has accommodations for some big luggage. This bike doesn't have it, but the factory makes big luggage with great mounting points for it, so that it's easy to tour on. So those are why I would say it's a light sport tourer. So let me start reviewing in detail what it's all about here. First of all, I'm going to talk about the styling of this bike. It is a good-looking bike, in my opinion. You have to see it in person. If you look at pictures all day, even look at this video, it doesn't come across. It's a nicely sculpted shape. The styling grew on me more and more as I had it. I actually was excited to go out and look at it in the garage before I took off on a ride for it. It's really a nice-looking bike. BMW really is stepping up their styling game, if you ask me. If you look at what they've been doing lately with things like the R9T, the S1000RR, and even this bike. Even the rear wheel. The rear wheel is a single-sided swing arm. If you look at the wheel more closely, it's pretty interesting. The spokes are all offset all the way to the left of the wheel. The bike is a belt drive for quiet touring. The brake caliper is in the middle of the wheel. Even the trailing arm itself is sculpted and has a great look about it. All of the luggage mounting points on this bike are stealth, and you don't see much of them when the luggage is off. So the bike looks good with luggage off or on. So next I want to talk a little bit about the engine. This is BMW's 800cc parallel twin putting out 90 horsepower. I'm pretty familiar with this motor because I have the 71 horsepower version on my own bike. If you read a lot of reviews of this bike, you'll read that the motor is a little vibey. And that's true. There is a range where you can start to feel some of the vibration through the handlebars and foot pegs. But that's only, in my experience, at very high RPMs. And at those high RPMs, it's not putting out any additional power anyway. This is a low RPM, low-end torque kind of motor. All you're going to get by running it at high RPMs is a lot of buzz and a lot of power, not much power. So keep it in its happy range. I'd say 4,500 to 6,500 RPMs is sort of its butter zone. BMW talks about being able to get 60 miles a gallon with this motor. I believe them. I get 50 miles a gallon all the time on my bike, and I make zero effort to get good fuel economy. So if you nurse this motor, I'm sure you can get these outrageous numbers. Braking is probably one of the long suits, if not the long suit, best strength of this bike. It's got Brembos front and rear, great big rotors up front. I never had to do much more than feather them. In fact, I had to learn just to take it easy on the brakes because they're so powerful on this thing. ABS kicks in unobtrusively. The ABS can't be disabled on this bike, by the way. I'm not sure for riding on the road why you ever would want to, so it's not a feature here. but the brakes are a real outstanding feature on this bike. I'll talk a little bit about the handling and suspension of the bike. The rear is adjustable for preload via an external knob you can reach easily, and the damping on this particular model can be changed electronically. More on that later. The front is not adjustable. Now, of course, this is not a pure sport bike, but its handling and the tucked position that you're in, the pegs are back a little bit, and while you're sitting upright, you're still in a pseudo sport bike mode. I've only ridden adventure bikes and not sport bikes, and this thing was a handling revelation for me. It requires a fraction of the input. Lean into a corner, and it goes where you want it to go by telepathy. The handling is very light and very fast, and just a lot of fun. A rider with a real sport bike experience could probably break that down a lot more. Even if you're just looking for an upright sport bike, however, with no touring in mind, I think this bike would be a great choice for you. The handling was just a lot of fun. The electronics on this bike include the ABS that I mentioned. It also has traction control, electronically adjustable suspension, and a tire pressure monitor, or TPMS. You can turn off the traction control. I never had a bike with traction control. It would be nice in the rain. If you're going to be doing touring, you probably are going to face riding in the rain. I don't think the traction control ever kicked in on me, although I did try a few times. As far as the adjustable suspension goes, it really didn't make that much of a difference. On BMW's higher-end bikes, the adjustable suspension has gotten rave reviews, but on mid-range bikes like this, let's just say I'm hoping the next generation the BMW comes out with is much improved. The TPMS, on the other hand, is really nice to have. I've decided after having this bike that I want TPMS on my bikes in the future. I often wonder if the front tire pressure is getting low, when most of the time the feeling is coming from a bad road surface. So whenever I get gas, I find myself checking tire pressure. I do it a lot. It's an important safety thing on a bike. So the tire pressure monitor is a convenience thing. You don't have to be checking your tire pressure at the gas station all the time. And a safety thing. You always know that your tires are in the right range when the conditions are getting funny. So it's a great feature. I really liked having it. So I would say overall, if you look at this bike for what it's trying to do, be light, sport, and touring, it's a winner. If you want a tour that you can get around a parking lot with when you stop to buy supplies during your tour, but at the same time still be able to lean it back and forth quickly on a canyon road, you won't do any better than this. BMW has really created a bit of a niche here, I think. Very few other bikes have this particular combination of traits. The light touring bikes tend to be adventure bikes. And the other sport tourers tend to have really big motors and be much heavier. Now, the question is, are riders looking for that combination of strengths? I know this bike hasn't been a big seller for BMW, but I hope they keep it in the lineup. It may take riders a while to discover this niche, but it's a lot of fun, and I think it's worth some consideration. So, until the next time we meet out there on the road doing some light sport touring, I'll see you all out there on two wheels.